This year, I'm going to talk a bit about the next steps in the PKI ecosystem in how to look after those certificates once you issue them. So if you don't know anything about Keyfactor, we do everything to do with digital certificates, really, all the way from the issuance with the CAs to the automation in automatically renewing those certificates once they've been issued onto the platforms, and then digital signing as well. So anything from code signing to document signing to configuration file signing, all of those signing use cases. And all of these can be deployed either on-prem or in the cloud as well. Okay, so nowadays the world is more connected than ever. You guys know this more than many, actually. There's so many different devices out there. And this is an interesting extract from Gartner here. The number of machines now outnumbers humans by an order of magnitude, and organizations must establish tooling and processes to control those identities. So we've got so many different types of machine identities out there, really, that all need some form of trust. They need digital certificates to mainly talk with each other and to secure the communications, whether it's the user authenticating to the device, or whether it's the device authenticating to a cloud. All of these communications need securing, right? And an interesting conversation that I ended up in a few years ago, actually, is I was asking the question, well, why does, for example, an IoT device such as a fridge or a light or an oven or something like that need this secure communication? I mean, what would the impact be if someone was to hack my device in my home, right? Yeah, they might burn your food, or they might the fridge, you know, the food might go out of date or something like that. The impact would be very small in that case. But let's imagine that a manufacturer produced 10,000 ovens, for example. If someone was to hack all of those 10,000 ovens and turn them all on at the same time, you've got a 3 kilowatt oven times 10,000 devices. You could potentially take down the national grid, right? So in numbers, this could become a potential issue for any malicious activity. So let's have a look at the state of machine identity management in 2023. We did a survey with 1,280 survey respondents in 12 different industries over North America and EMEA. Key findings and takeaways: what's new, what's changed, and what hasn't. We see a big increase in PKI used in the DevOps environment, in CI/CD pipelines. Well, from 21 to 2023, it was a 5% increase. And in IoT as well, as I just mentioned, with all of those devices all needing secure communications now in the ecosystem. Okay, 74%. Well, the more certificates you have, the more problems that you may end up with if you can't manage them. 74% say they're deploying more keys and more certificates in the environment. 72% say increasing use of keys and certificates is putting a burden on their teams. And 62% say that they don't know how many certificates that they have. And this final one can be a little worrisome, actually, especially when you look at an example. If you have a lot of code that you're delivering, a lot of software that you're producing, and let's say one of the developers spins up a self-signed CA with a weak key, and then they put that signature into your code. As a company, you don't know anything about it. You don't know where the key was produced. You don't know where the key is stored, and then maybe the developer leaves the company, and then you end up with this big problem, right? So it's very important to have good visibility on the PKI system that you have. Has anyone done that? Has anyone spun up any self-signed CAs? Don't worry, you don't need to answer that. Okay, so this is what typically happens, and this is the big one actually with expiring certificates. The application or service fails. Identifying the root cause can sometimes be a bit challenging as well. You have to identify all the locations that the cert is installed. So you might have multiple web servers in your environment. So the same certificate might be on all of those devices. Or in some use cases, you might be using a wildcard certificate, which isn't best practice, but sometimes we see it as well. We need to reissue and renew and reissue the certificate. We need to provision the certificate to all of those servers or devices or whatever it may be, and then restart the services and the systems. 3 times the number of cert related outages in the last 24 months. So it's really becoming a bigger issue for a lot of larger enterprises for sure. 55% say the outages resulted in severe disruption to customer-facing services as well, and I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so some high-profile cases that we've seen as well in California in the Department of Public Health. There was 300,000 COVID-19 test cases that couldn't be submitted to the public database because of a PKI outage over 5 days. This resulted in the government making maybe incorrect decisions on how to handle the pandemic and the virus and things like that. A big one here, O2 in the UK, a telecom provider, millions of phones were taken offline for the best part of a day. After a lengthy court battle, Ericsson paid $132 million in compensation to O2. That would affect the yearly figure, right? With Starlink, do you all know what Starlink is? With the satellites Elon Musk put up there for the internet and things like that around the world. Certificate outage on a ground station resulted in an outage over the entire Pacific. So that's the impact that one single certificate can have in the environment, basically. So just have a little think about what key certificates that you have in your environment. For example, the most common use cases are probably a VPN certificate. If a server certificate on a VPN fails, you might have all of your employees not being able to access the environment for that period of time. In the e-commerce sector, for example, you might have a website that you're relying on to sell your products. If that goes down, you've got a little bit of a problem there as well. And then more likely in Switzerland locally here with the banking services, right? Banking applications, that could really be a problem, and you could lose trust not only with the banking industry, but with your clients as well if you have services go down frequently. The typical solve a PKI outage or an expired certificate is not less than 1 hour. It's usually 4+ hours in 42% of the time. And this is because so many staff usually have to get involved in a large organization. First of all, you'll end up with the support staff taking the call. Then it will probably be escalated to a management position because it's a severe issue. Then it will come down to the CA team as well that will have to reissue the certificate in most cases. And then probably the networking team as well, if it's a load balancer or an edge firewall, something like that, that the cert has to be renewed on, right? Security skills are hard to find and retain, except maybe at a Securosys conference, right? 53% don't have enough staff to deploy or manage a PKI. This is really becoming a problem trying to find skilled personnel, really. If you ever tried to recruit for a PKI position, you don't usually find anybody coming out of a university or a college or something knowing everything about PKI. It only comes with experience and knowledge of looking after those systems. It's not just the skills, it's the diversity of tools as well, and finding the right tools that integrate with each other and work well together with preferably the same technologies as well. So you can, yeah, it makes your life easier, right? If they're at least similar. Unexpected audit findings. There's changes in the CA baseline requirements. So, for example, with the shorter TLS lifespans, Google are pushing forward that they're reducing the validity of a certificate, a publicly trusted certificate, down from 398 days down to 90 days. So you can imagine if you've got hundreds of certificates out there that you need to renew every 3 months, it might be an issue. And many customers that we help have been managing their certificates with either Excel spreadsheets or calendars as well to try and remember to renew those certificates. So it's a bit of a method that's maybe fail prone. I can never say this word. Key attestation requirements for code signing certificates. And this was an interesting talk that Securosys had last year, actually, with the HSMs with key attestation. New protocols and mandates are coming in, the M2209 on Zero Trust. This relates to more of the federal government as well. So internally, in the government, they're not allowed to have any systems with without certificates or without a secure way of communication between those services. CMP with 3GPP as well. This is about the telecom providers. The certificates that are installed on the base stations that need to communicate back to the telecom provider, or maybe even to the phones as well. And the Matter protocol as well, which defines how IoT devices should talk to each other and how they should be secured with communication also. Post-quantum standards, we're also heavily looking into that at the moment. And you can see the stats here, 4.2 times the average number of audit issues relate to PKI machine identity management in the last 24 months. So this is really an up-and-coming problem. 2 out of 3 say these incidents are very serious or just serious. Okay, so just to give you an example of this, I've been in this situation myself in the very early days of PrimeKey, and I was partly responsible for the IT system. And my colleague very kindly said to me, "Well, Chris, I'm just about to go on holiday for 4 weeks, and by the way, all of the certificates are expiring in 2. So good luck with that. I'm going on holiday." So you know the process, right? You need to first of all gain access to the systems and make sure that you can access it. You need to find the certificates, create the CSR, and make sure all of the information is correct. Send the CSR to the public CA, get the certificate back, put it on the device, make sure that the binding is done with the service as well. It's quite a lengthy process. If you're not using any orchestration system or something like that, if you do in every server manually. Programs like or systems like Ansible and Puppet and things like that can help with this, but they don't solve the complete problem, I would say. So with our solutions, what if you could get visibility of every single certificate within your environment? Who owns the certificate? Does it have any weak keys involved? Any weak libraries, for example, a Rocker library, RSA Rocker library, a 1024-bit key or a SHA-1 certificate, for example, they do still exist. They are still out there, and they need to be discovered and preferably replaced as they're not very secure. And most importantly, will it expire soon? So you get a really good overview of exactly which certificates are going to expire and when as well. So Command can actually be deployed alongside Active Directory at the moment, and it can go out into the environment and it can search for all of those certificates on many different devices. I haven't listed them all here, but for example, on the F5 load balancers, on the Microsoft IaaS servers, AWS, Apache, Google, etc. Right? A lot of different servers and devices as well. So even if you have a key store on the operating system, on a Linux server, a Windows server, the command can go in and automatically, discover that certificate first of all. It can also integrate with all of the CA service providers as well, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud as well. So for example, Entrust, our EGBCA CA, DigiCert, Microsoft's CA, GoDaddy, Komodo, all of those CAs as well, right? So essentially, the important thing that we see here is all of the certificates that you will be able to see in the command platform under one single pane of glass. So you get full visibility of the environment. The next stage to that is actually automating the renewal of the certificate, right? So with the platform, you've got the choice of seeing maybe 10,000 certificates within the environment, but you can choose exactly how many certificates that you want to automate the renewal for. And not only can you automate the renewal of the certificate and key, you can also renew the key, well, the binding as well. So if you've got a Microsoft IAS service there, if you change the certificate underneath it, you also need to renew the binding as well, so that it knows about the new certificate and can use it. So the Keyfactor command can go in, do all this seamlessly, so you don't have to, or you don't have any downtime on your services and systems. And how is this done? We do this through mainly orchestrators, because in quite a lot of cases, you're going to have these remote areas, right? You might have your primary forest with a couple of CAs in there and a lot of certificates, which command can go out and discover these certificates locally. But if you've got a remote system across on the other side of the world, you don't want one platform to be going out and scanning all the ports and IP addresses on a remote area, right? So this is why we have orchestrators that we deploy on that remote site that can go ahead and do the SSL network scanning. So they'll bring back all of the endpoints, all of those certificates back to command. And the second part is that the orchestrators, they can go and renew the certificates themselves as well. All the communication is done over port 443 as well, over HTTPS. So it's very, very secure. And then the orchestrators can also integrate directly with the remote CAs if you want to as well. So you'll get essentially a full visibility of all of those certificates. Okay, so I've mentioned these just now already, but these are the key points that I would look for in a CLM solution if I was to buy one today. Synchronous CA, well, continuous CA synchronization. This means that command will go out and, in our case, command will go out and do a sync with the remote CA. And you can keep those integrations that you might have in place with the CA. So for example, if you're enrolling with you've written a certain script or whatever, you can still use that remote CA, but the command can go in and retrieve those new certificates as well. So it's not just a one-time thing, and it's not too intrusive to install either. Network-based discovery, like I said, it's better if the remote areas are segmented, so you don't have that remote scanning going over a wide area network, causing a lot of traffic and potentially disrupting services as well. And low-level discovery as well. This is also important if some of the certificates aren't bound to IP addresses or ports. So it's very important that you have a system that can go into the file systems as well, maybe, and pull out those certificates that you have potential problems with. Now in the future, well, within the last few months with EGBCA, with our CA platform, we've introduced the Securosys HSM. It's now available to integrate with, and it's quite easy as well. We have a nice GUI where you just put in the IP address, put in the connection information, and then you're pretty much done, right? It's very easy to bring up your CA solution nowadays compared to, say, 10 years ago. Post-quantum PKI, this is very much on the top of our agenda at the moment as well. We're already it's already integrated into EGBCA, and we're doing testing with different vendors as well. So this is up and coming, but essentially we're waiting for NIST to approve all the algorithms in the end of 2024, but you know, it may be sooner than that even, we don't know yet. Further development on the REST API is taking place as well, so you can control your CA over the REST API. And then the big one we're looking at is containerizing commands so that it can be Active Directory independent as well. So it can be installed in a container, doesn't have the reliance on AD on the back end. That's it. I hope the information was beneficial to you, and thanks for listening, guys. Any questions? Thank you very much.